So I think we can all agree that it's wrong to knowingly buy, sell, transport, or promote stolen and/or counterfeit goods. In fact, there are multiple state and federal laws that prohibit and punish those that knowingly buy, sell, transport, or even just in possession of stolen and/or counterfeit goods. Based on federal law Title 18, Sections 2315 and Sections 2320, just two examples for this video, you can spend up to 10 years in prison and face pretty hefty fines for stolen goods, and face up to 20 years in prison and or fined up to $15 million for counterfeit goods. And at the state level, in Nevada, simply being in possession of stolen goods is seen as stealing the items in the first place. And based on the value of those items, you can be charged with a misdemeanor or felony. With that being said, Michael Barristo, aka Rattle Pokemon, shows a very clear bias towards Gary Hayes, who is guilty of violating previously mentioned laws, as well as many others, while holding others to a completely different set of standards. For example, despite there being evidence of, and in some cases Gary Hayes even admitting to, crimes such as tax evasion, mail fraud, charity fraud, money laundering, and a laundry list of other crimes, Michael Barristo continues to defend and associate himself with Gary Hayes. And one of the reasons why Rattle is so willing to look the other way is because Gary Hayes continues to financially support him. Whether that's in the form of Gary Hayes purchasing a $5,000 microscope from Michael Barristo, Michael Barristo getting a large part of his first edition basic collection from Gary.
Important to note that I also got a lot of my first edition base from Gary when I first started.
Gary helping Michael's channel grow, which we'll discuss the main reason why later on in this video, or simply being a paid member of Michael's channel. The point I'm trying to make is that Michael Barristo's opinion is clearly influenced by Gary Hayes' payments, as well as his personal relationship with him. Oh, and by the way, those were just the irrefutable forms of payment that Rattle and many others cannot deny. But let's go over some of the evidence that Gary Hayes is buying, selling, transporting stolen and counterfeit goods. On March 9, 2022, Gary Hayes posted a video on his personal Instagram opening a package containing 2 incomplete Pokemon cards. These cards did not have any text on them and were not cut in the usual manner. Gary refers to these cards as square cuts, rather than incomplete cards, and attempts to give the impression that these cards were innocently obtained. And then, in the second video on March 9, 2022, we find out that the seller's name is Adrian.
Okay, by the way, this is Adrian, everybody.
And he goes by the title of The Charizard on Instagram. So Adrian likes to change his name quite a bit. He used to go by the Smokymon, then the Charizard, and as of a couple days ago, he now goes by the Dank Breaks. Both videos end up being a poor attempt to act oblivious towards the origin of these stolen cards, and meant to be just another one Geriatric Hayes' alibi videos, while it's obvious that the two are selling the cards together.
So I mean, and this Onyx actually is on eBay right now. I figured that was how we would start the fire. But you actually got one before anyone else, and I think that's befitting, very befitting. And I'm, what a pleasure, what an honor to have them in your hands before anyone else's.
Well, thank you.
Oh, you're very, very welcome.
Yeah, anybody who's interested or anybody who knows, because not everybody is online right now, and anybody that knows who might be interested, just come on, just come back, send them back here just to watch this video, and then they can contact you. Now, where's the best place for them to contact you?
Well, they can contact me here on Instagram.
Now, if you're not quite convinced that these cards are stolen, let's listen to Adrian talk about where these cards came from.
My wife had came across a picture on Facebook and said, look at this. So we looked at it, and I'd messaged the woman, and the woman said, I'm going to give your number to the guys. So these guys from Ohio drove all the way here up to Michigan to meet me for some of these cards.
Okay.
And they had a bundle of them, and they explained to me what the price was over the phone, and I said, well, if you'll meet me at the safe trade zone at a police station, I said I would be much more inclined to to do this deal and to maybe show up and actually have a large amount of cash, you know.
Right.
So they agreed. They came all the way from Ohio. We met, and long story short, I tried lowballing them a little bit. They started to leave because I was worried. You know, there was no way for me to verify those at the time, so on and so forth. And when I did it with the card with no print, same thing happened. So, the story that I got from these guys was they got it from somebody who knew somebody who worked there. So, I asked if there was any more details. They didn't say anything like, "You want the cards?" I said, "Yeah, I do," you know. And at that point, I figured this could be one of the next hottest things. The only thing I've seen that was similar to this, and I actually talked to the gentleman who owns it, is the whole uncut sheet. I spoke with him yesterday.
Now, one of the main things to note here is that comments on Gary's post are limited, meaning Gary has to approve each comment. So not only is Gary in the video trying to help sell these cards and hyping them up, but he's also the one approving Adrian's comments about selling these stolen cards. This is Gary's way of advertising these cards while ensuring that he's able to deny any accountability and placing the blame on his lesser accomplice if needed, as Adrian is the one with the clear statement that he is selling it right there in the comment section. Either way, it's quite clear from these two videos that Gary Hayes is attempting to sell and knowingly in possession of stolen goods. Now, unfortunately, Gary's history with buying, selling, and promoting stolen Pokemon cards doesn't begin nor end here. Remember how Gary flew to Vietnam to purchase Pokemon cards that supposedly fell off a shipping freight?
What's the furthest you've traveled to collect a Pokemon?
Well, Vietnam.
You traveled to Vietnam?
I had a fellow who had known me from there, said there was some kind of a boat accident on the way to Korea or something like that, and they had Pokemon sealed cases, and he wanted to know if I'd be interested. He said that there's quite a bit of water damage in that.
Yeah.
But would I be interested? So got right over there.
Yeah, I'm sure Wizards of the Coast or the Pokemon Company had a sales rep hanging out in Vietnam, ready to sell a shipping container that conveniently fell off in a place where the cards were not even headed. Furthermore, Gary brought these cards back into the US and sold them through eBay and other avenues.
At the time, he said that he had nothing, but he has a lot of cards. And he just said, "Come over here, visit. And then if 5 years later, you stay here for 5 years, if 5 years later you don't like it, then you can we go back."
5 years?
"What card do you have?" He said, "Pokemon card." I don't have no idea about Pokemon card at that time. And then when I moved here, 2010, I saw him like crazy. Night and day, everything in it, on it. I said, "Gary, you should sleep sometime, right?"
Pokemon.
No, everything Pokemon.
Look, it doesn't take a full-blown investigation to understand what went on here. Gary Hayes purchased stolen Pokemon cards in Vietnam, and then he transported them back to the US to sell them online. And we haven't even begun to talk about the sheets of cards that he's bought and sold throughout the years. Sheets of cards do not come out of dumpsters in that kind of condition. They're either walked out of print facilities by an employee, or they're stolen from secure shredding bins. These are bins used to store paper and electronics that contain sensitive information on them until they can be destroyed. But let's go ahead and speed things up. Gary Hayes gave a shout out to and promoted someone who creates counterfeit first edition base set Charizards and sells them. Gary used their services to do a reprint of his custom card that he handed out in France. And whether it's receiving free or discounted products, favors, or straight up cash, Gary is getting his cut of the sales made from these stolen and counterfeit goods. Now, what does Rattle have to say about all of this? Well, absolutely nothing. Gary's videos have been up for over 3 months, and Rattle has yet to say anything about them, whereas Leonhardt's video has been up for a little over 3 weeks, and Rattle has already made at least 2 videos. Let me break this down. There is actual evidence that Gary Hayes is buying, selling, and transporting stolen goods, and yet Rattle remains silent. Whereas Rattle has a hunch that the card in Leonhardt's box was stolen, and somehow that's good enough to make 2 videos making wild accusations and attacking Leonhardt's fanbase for calling him out. Look, I don't agree with everything that Leonhardt has done, and I do have my fair share of issues with him. But to defend the biggest scammer that there is, when it comes to Pokemon, despite there being mountains of evidence, while pointing at someone else for the same or lesser issues with no evidence, is just wrong. Now, before Rattle's followers start to screech and cry that Rattle supposedly caught AJ lying, there's this.
I was trying to get him to fall for telling me that the love balls weren't there.
What Michael Barristo just proved here is that he's intentionally trying to get people to lie so that he can claim that the person was lying. Michael will then base his entire investigation off of that lie so he can continue to speculate and harass that person. So, in short, by tricking them into lying, Rattle is able to say that they're guilty for everything else that he accuses them of.
If you know anything about the previous scammerinos I've talked to, I'm going to talk to them until they lie to me. And when they lie to me, I'm going to try to get them to double down on it. I'm going to ask them questions. I'm going to talk to them until they lie to me. And when they start lying to me, I know they're probably lying about everything. So,
has he never heard of the Mandela effect or false memories? Just because somebody remembers something differently or may lie to you about one thing doesn't mean that they're lying to you about everything. Imagine if our justice system followed that form of measure. Then, there is the fact that Michael records every phone call without acquiring consent beforehand.
Am I being recorded, or can I talk freely, or what?
Yes. So I just record everything, whether I'm like going to use it or not.
Okay, so I am being recorded without my permission, all right?
Yes.
Now, there are multiple court cases that have decided that when you make a phone call to someone in another state, you're intending to have a conversation with that person in that state. Therefore, privacy and recording laws of that state are applied to that conversation. What Rattle is doing is illegal in many states, and even in Canada, based on where that person is located, meaning in a place where privacy is expected, Rattle can land himself in quite a bit of trouble. But the reason why he records people is to later twist their words and hopefully catch a statement that he can use out of context.
So I just record everything, whether I'm like going to use it or not.
Michael then claims that he's trying to help Jeff Rizzo clear his name. But it's funny how Michael is the one making all of the accusations. And then Michael claims that if Jeff Rizzo doesn't have anything to hide, then he should feel free to talk with him. What Michael is implying here is that if Jeff Rizzo doesn't answer all of his questions and tell him what he wants to hear, Michael is going to accuse him of hiding something.
Don't think that's real nice, especially when you're asking for help.
Well, yeah, but I'm also trying to clear your name. So if you don't have anything to hide necessarily, then you can feel free to discuss with me, but you don't have to tell me anything, really.
There are many other cases where Michael Barristo is clearly out of line and in violation of YouTube's terms of service. Take, for example, any time he is spreading the same hate-filled rhetoric of that of an angry incel. Both Gary Hayes and Michael Barristo have a history of encouraging harassment by attacking women for how they look, how they dress, and often making false allegations about adult content. This usually comes right after mocking those that stand up against misogyny and mocking those that are a victim to verbal and mental abuse.
I don't know what you would consider a skin pick. I mean, it's obviously not to the extreme that some stuff is, but certainly suggestive, I guess. It seems like it was a more skin earlier on.
Was because people were talking about her doing skin pics on Instagram and all this stuff.
Now, based on Michael Barristo's statements, I can confidently say that he is the type of person to blame someone for being assaulted because of what they were wearing.
To say you aren't using it for attention is, I mean, I guess you can't call them skin pics if you're referring to skin pics as actual nudes. What? Like, that's on purpose. I'm sorry, but it's fine if you want to do it, but don't claim that like you aren't trying to get the attention for it.
Meanwhile, Gary Hayes is a part of an ongoing podcast where he attempts to cover his ass by claiming that he cares about women.
Yeah, and also I appreciate what you're saying about, about it's what this is all about the girls that take so much bullying and so much heat, and that's the whole reason we started this.
But what he doesn't tell his guest is that he's funding, supporting, and participating in the harassment of female Pokemon content creators.
I follow your every word, believe me, and I think everybody else should too. And I'm glad it's helping the channel.
100%.
I mean, you totally deserve it. And I mean, I felt that for a long time. You know, I did some things with you, hoping that it would help the channel. And this is certainly, you know, helping it.
This is the same guy that intentionally misgenders people that he doesn't like, and in many cases threatens violence. Now, one of the main reasons why Gary Hayes started hyping Rattle's channel is to attack and discredit anyone questioning him. See, right after Gary was exposed for tax evasion, mail fraud, charity fraud, racism, misogyny, money laundering, and more, Gary started to realize that his BS isn't working as well as he thought it was. And when he started to attack others for exposing him, well, that didn't work out too well either. So he started to try and convince his followers that it was just cancel culture, and that they should cancel the cancelers for him.
It's just making it so this hobby someday won't be fun anymore because of all these Debbie Downers, okay? Because of all these losers that have nothing better to do, that can't develop anything on their own, that can't create anything positive, so they dwell on the negative. Okay, well, out with the tots, throw out the trash. Don't follow these people, don't like anything, cancel the cancelers, okay? In this case, Rattle, all he did was investigative work.
So let me summarize what Gary wants to do. Gary Hayes wants to become cancel culture himself so that he can take out anyone questioning his criminal behavior. And Gary's plan is to let Rattle do the dirty work for him, because just like the Charizard, if it all blows up, well, Gary can deny accountability. So the only thing Gary has to do at this point is complain to Rattle and then point people in the direction of Rattle.
Logan is going to see that there's, you know, with all the garbage he has to go through and look at, he's going to see that there are good people in this hobby. There are good people in this world. People like Rattle. He deserves everything he gets, but he wants nothing. Maybe a follow. Maybe go to Rattle Pokemon here on YouTube. Rattle Pokemon. And give him a follow. Like his videos. You want to help him? Well, he wants to earn it. Okay? He wants to entertain you. He wants to show you the intellectual side of the nuances of this hobby.
You know what? Let's take a look at what Gary Hayes considers one of the intellectual nuances of this hobby. Michael Barristo has been recording pack openings on Omegle for quite some time, which is a video chat service that connects you with random people. And almost every time you use this service, you're going to encounter nudity and people performing certain acts. Just use your imagination. Now, other than assuming someone's age based on their appearance, there's no way to verify the age of the person that you're looking at. And Omegle is known for predators using this service to request and record little kids. Now, whenever there is someone who is nude or performing a certain act, Michael will sometimes blink out the entire person on the screen. But there are many times where he intentionally covers up only part of their body using a Pokemon, and will leave in their face and or other features. But he intentionally leaves in this footage so he can make jokes about it. Michael is fully aware of what is going on with this platform, especially after making 18 videos. Now, I'm sure the Pokemon Company would love to hear that their intellectual property is being represented in this manner, but the more important thing to note here is that Michael has more than likely recorded illegal material and is storing it on his personal devices.
I think I have it. Dang. I'm okay with that.
Again, there is no way for Michael to confirm the age of the people he's recording, but yet he's saving it, he's editing it, and he's uploading it to YouTube. In many cases, Michael is seen skipping around from person to person until there is a child, where he has in multiple cases made creepy comments to them and advertised his channel.
Hey, what the hell is going on here?
Are you a YouTuber?
Yeah. Do you want to open Pokemon cards?
Hello?
You have to. You guys have to keep your shorts on though.
Wait, are we on a?
You're in a YouTube video. Don't.
We're in a YouTube video.
Don't.
Oh no way!
Don't swear and don't be naked.
Alright, sorry. No, I'm not naked. We're not naked. We just got out of the pool. Sorry. Wait.
Nice.
Wait.
I said sick. Look at that. Free subscribers. Just like that. Nice. Very cool. All right, you guys go dry off and do whatever you're doing.
There is a problem with Michael Barristo and children, because other than the events on Omegle, he is constantly making inappropriate references about underage fans of female content creators that he and Gary Hayes want to get rid of.
So apparently she was extremely upset about me calling her simps in the last video, but I'm sorry, that's just what they are. Horny boys that are going to protect you no matter what. They're going to do their best to white knightedness all over your face. The sexist comments, if we're gonna be honest here, you might be attracting an audience that's going to say a lot of that stuff. You're gonna have some horny little boys that want to see thighs and legs and feet.
And Michael is taking things a step further by using a topless photo of little Shelder as a way to attack her.
So it's also a little bit weird that people are telling me that your boyfriend is still under the impression that it's non-nude, but it's very nude.
Again, Michael Barristo is the type of person that justifies harassment and assault because of what someone was wearing. His views of women are extremely twisted and sick. They are the same views that have resulted in countless tragedies and continue to cultivate hate and encourage abuse. And because Gary Hayes attempts to hide behind a podcast where he makes false claims stating that he's against harassment and bullying females, despite him being Rattle's biggest supporter, it proves that he's attempting to build a cover story when it all blows up. But the question that everyone should be asking themselves right now is, how far are these two willing to go, and does the Pokemon Company and YouTube really want their names associated with them when it goes down?
Yeah, and also I appreciate what you're saying about, about it's what this is all about the girls that take so much bullying and so much heat, and that's the whole reason we started this.